Hello. Hello and welcome to the show. Technical difficulties as usual. Listen, thank you so much for joining the show. You joining Tammy. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Wait, now this month is about the power of advocacy. And just it's been a powerful month, all month. We have a special guest. Her name is Cary Thomas. So I just want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy because it's coming up next. We'll be right back. The Cary Insurance Agency has served the community for over 30 years with hundreds of trained representatives to assist you in selecting health plans. Cary Insurance Agency is the largest marketing insurance group in the state of South Carolina for Medicare Advantage and represents all major health carriers. Annual enrollment for Medicare Advantage is October the 15th through December the 7th. Cary's motto is people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. Call Cary Insurance Agency today at 803-536-0889. All right, welcome back. Well, listen, I told you we have a great show planned for you. This is the month of the power of advocacy. It is the power of advocacy. So all been about people advocating for issues. Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You heard last week about our breast cancer survivor, Marion Pollock, and she's going through stage 4 cancer. She just revealed that on the show. And so we're continuing to pray for her. So today, I have a very special guest. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's Jamaican born. She was raised in South Florida. She is active duty in the military. She is Master Sergeant in the Air Force. She served multiple advocacy roles, bringing awareness to insufferable issues such as anxiety, domestic violence, child abuse, and various forms of trauma. Now, she's the host of her own podcast called Camouflage Beauty, and she's the founder of the lifestyle brand Cary, Cary, Challenge Adversity, Respect Yourself. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to our guest, Miss Cary Thomas. Come on out, Cary. How are
Hi,
you?
I am
Hey.
well.
Listen, I was like, I'm telling so much about you. Master Sergeant, I love that. And thank you so much for your service, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Really, I'm just so proud of you. I am so proud of you.
Yes,
So, as I was talking about Cary, and I talked with you as we talked on the phone, wanted you to talk about um, to being a domestic violence survivor, but you are a domestic violence advocate. But
I am.
before we do that, I want you to kind of give us a little history about who Cary Thomas is, how you got into the military, coming from Jamaica, and being in South Florida. Talk about all of that, Cary.
Right. So thank you again for having me on the show. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes. So a little about me. Yes, I was born and raised in Jamaica. Actually, I lived there till I was about 13 years old, and then I moved with my family to South Florida. So that in itself was a different world, two different worlds. Being in South Florida and being in Jamaica. I grew up seeing many things, and unfortunately, one of the things that I grew up seeing was domestic violence, and so I have some experience with it from that aspect as well. And maybe it's shaped my definition and my outlook on what domestic violence really was. So fast forward, I joined the Air Force at 21 years old, and I was having a good time. I was young, 21, and decided to get married to someone who I knew from home. We got married, and lots of things added to youth and experience and other things added to led us down a dark path, which included domestic violence of my own. So, yeah.
Yeah. And talking, and I said, this is the power of advocacy. All month we've been talking about all the issues, especially, bringing awareness to breast cancer, but also wanting to bring awareness to domestic violence. I want you to kind of, without going into any details about what actually happened, I want you to talk about your experience as being a domestic violence survivor. One of the questions that comes to mind, and a lot of people do ask this, is why did you stay? Or how did you get in that situation? And that's really not a fair question, but people don't realize when they ask you that what that really means. So
Mhm.
let's talk about your experience as a domestic violence survivor.
So I was enduring domestic violence, but for a long time I wasn't aware that I was enduring domestic violence. I actually had a neighbor of mine who was experiencing a more physical, more traumatic experience than I thought I was experiencing, and so I was actually in the role of helping her through her
Mm,
process, and I did that for quite some time. Still not recognizing that I was too in a domestic violence situation. So yes, I've heard a lot of people ask that question. What do you experience? Why did you stay? Well, the thing is, it doesn't happen all at once, right? So you get
mhm,
married. There was some love there. There's there's apologies and forgiveness, and you want your relationship to work, and you try to continue to do that. And so we end up staying a lot longer than we probably should. And a lot of it comes with being honest with ourselves, to really
mhm,
say what it is that we're experiencing, to really put the definition, a label of domestic violence to it. So it took me a very long time to say that to myself because, again, I was in the helping role of helping other people going through
mhm,
this. And
mhm,
this isn't happening to me. So there was a lot of denial and
mhm.
justification from me about me that allowed me to remain in this unhealthy situation for far longer than I should.
And Carrie, how long was that you stayed in your marriage? And how did you decide that it was time? What clicked for
So
you?
I was married for about 5 years, and the breaking point for me was a statement that my then husband said. An altercation happened, and someone was there that saw the altercation, and they were not pleased with what they saw. And they said, "Hey, you shouldn't do that to your wife. You're not, you can't do these things to your wife." And his response was, "This is my wife, and I can do whatever I want." There was something about that statement in that moment that allowed me to believe I was viewed more than as property than as a person. And
Mhm,
that was the breaking point for me. I didn't plan for it to be the breaking point. I didn't know it would be the breaking point. But that's the breaking point I could remember. I remember rushing home alone, and we were in a foreign country at the time. So I rushed home, and I put the couch behind the door, and I called my family back in the States, and I said, I need help. And I think it was a trance. If I can look back at it now, from the time of hearing that comment to the phone call, it seemed like a trance. I just kind of
mhm.
went through the motions, but it was the right time.
Right. And have hearing you say that, some women that we know that may be watching the show now and that may be going through an incident or incidents of domestic violence, they might be looking and saying, well, if she did it, then I can do that. It has to be almost like an aha moment.
Mhm.
And for you, the aha moment was he looked at you as, I can do whatever I want to do. So what
Mhm.
were those steps that you took to get out of your situation? And I know you're not with your husband anymore, your ex-husband, but what were some of those steps that you had to take to really push yourself to say, I'm getting out of this, besides calling your family and being in a foreign country?
Yeah. So the first and most important step I think that I took, that I think it's necessary for the viewers to understand, is that you first have to admit it to yourself. That's the most important part, to say, I need help and I don't deserve this. Okay. And I'm not going to accept this. I think the moment that I had that conversation with me, everything else became seamless. And so I didn't know where to start. I was in a foreign country, and so it becomes a lot of trial and error. You do second guess yourself. Did I make the right decision? His version of the story is somewhat different than mine. And so you
Hmm.
worry about that. And I think one of the biggest things that I've understood going through it, surviving through it, and being here now as an advocate, it surrounds shame surrounds the topic.
Hmm.
And there is a certain sense of shame, as if I did something wrong or I was not good enough, that added to this, this event happening. So I think there are a lot of steps. And what I want to say for sure is that I don't think it looks the same for everybody, nor does
That's
it
right.
have to. And the important thing is to find a resource or resources, people or places that you trust, that you're comfortable with sharing your truth, that will really protect you. That's
Hmm.
really what's important, because what I
Hmm.
did can be a roadmap for you, but may not be a roadmap for you.
Right, right. And being in the military, Carrie,
Mm.
I can only imagine, and I've heard stories
Yes.
of women who are in the military, like yourself, who have been abused,
Yes.
in domestic violence situations and have just stayed in those situations. Some have had officers where the other people in their units do not believe the woman, but believe the man, or vice versa. If it's a man, being abused by a woman, same thing. And so, what was that like for you? As you said, you were in a foreign country, you had to figure out what to do. But being in the military, what was that like? How did being in the military either help you or hinder you from getting out of your situation?
So I think being in the military hindered me from getting out of the situation, but not to the fault of the military. And let me
Mm-hmm.
explain why. There is a stigma that you believe is associated with a woman being beaten. In the uniform as a woman, I sometimes feel as if I have to work twice as hard to keep up with the guys. I have to be strong at all times. I have to be faster, smarter at all times. And so it was very difficult for me to raise my hand and say, I was experiencing this thing that I considered made me look weak. And so that's how I felt in the moment in uniform. And I've talked to numerous other women who have gone through that. You don't want to bring your weakness into the room of people who represent strength and courage. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was a personal choice. But being on the other side of it now and being in the role of an advocate, I will say that from what I've experienced, not going to say the policies are perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I've experienced in the military, if you should step forward and say, I need help, they are there to help you. That strength comes for you in a different way. And they wrap their arms around you. They try to help you the best way they can. But for me, I was afraid. I was afraid
Mm-hmm.
of what they would think. I was afraid, of what they would say or how they would judge me. And so a lot of it started with me. And so I unfortunately was in my way more so than the military or any policy per se.
Right. And you talk about being in the way, and for women being in your position. I mean, you're a master sergeant. That's huge.
Mhm.
For women being in your position, even out in the private sector,
Yeah.
doctors, lawyers, we can name nurses, we can go down the line, teachers, and all, how we see ourselves sometimes as being that weak person and saying, you know what, this did this really happen to me? Did I really go through that? And so I want you to kind of tell some woman right now who may be watching you what she can do. She's looking at us right now and she's saying, I hear all this talk, but I don't have any money. I have children. Um, he's my source. He does love me. What do you tell a woman like that?
I would say to that woman listening or watching now that the very first thing that you have to know is that you deserve more. That's the very first thing that you have to know. Love doesn't equate to hurt or pain or shame or embarrassment or anything like that. And so once you decide and know that you deserve more, all you have to do is a quick search on your phone, a Google search, phone a friend, call somebody. There's so many agencies and resources available to help people. Um, I get it. You may not have the money. You may not know where to start. But the thing is, you do not have to figure it out alone. There are people who have been through it before. There are people who know other people. We can build a network around you. And there's so many people in the world that are willing to help. And I think once I finally came out and asked for help, that was one of the most surprising things that I learned. People from various backgrounds, economic standings, different people who can say, I've been there. I understand, I know, and I can help. People that
Mhm.
I had no prior relationship with that just poured into me. You know, there's so many agencies that are willing to do that. And I know that if they do it for me and for numerous other people that I know, that anyone listening today has the same opportunity to get that help as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Cary, thank you so much for that because I know that there may be some women who are watching and they may be thinking, I can't get out of this. I can't do this. But I'm glad you said what you said because family is important. And I want to ask you a question, and it may sound like a different type of question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked you that, but you said you called your family. How did this um, how did this situation impact your family? And you being miles, millions of miles away, I'm just saying millions,
Yeah.
but across the waters, how did it impact your family?
So I think my family went into protection mode. What do you need, and how do we get it to you? And that was the most important thing at the time. And I think a part of me, I was worried about that. They wouldn't have the money, the resources, the time to stop and help me. They have their own lives going on. But my family literally stopped and figured out what it is that I needed in the moment. And once I said what I needed, everyone kind of got together, that network again, to say, okay, I'll figure out part A, someone else will work on B, and together we'll come together and come up with a solution. And I think whether you have a traditional family or not, or you're far away across the world, or, whatever it is, that family doesn't necessarily have to be blood. Because I also had folks in that country, a foreign country, that were able to say, how can I help you as well? And so that, again, that first important step is asking for that support.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing. I think with anything that we've been talking about in advocacy, it's all about support. And if you can find that support, just like you said, it doesn't matter. I have an aunt who I call aunt that's not family, but
Hmm.
God put her in the place for me at the time that I needed her to be my aunt, which she still is my aunt, who I love dearly. So let's talk about anxiety. One of the things that people don't address, and I know you are a strong advocate about anxiety, is anxiety. There is so much, and we've been talking about domestic violence, but a lot of that comes with that as well. How has that affected you, and do you still have some anxieties as it relates to your past experiences with domestic violence?
Yeah, so I have anxiety. And to say that, it's now something that is second nature to me. I'm comfortable saying
Mhm.
I have anxiety. But it took a very long time for me to get there, again, because some of the stigmas that are often associated with mental health illnesses, or what they may look like as a military leader. I'm leading different people, different groups of people, larger groups. And so for me, it was important for me to say what it is that is wrong, learn more about it for myself, and allow my team as well to know that I suffer from this thing, and how can they help me in the moment,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's important to say that, right? So I
Mhm.
think I struggled at first when I found out I had anxiety with, it's not normal. There is no normal, right?
Mhm.
Normal for you
Mhm.
is what you look like. That is as normal as it gets. And so it's important for us to remember that. But as far as the domestic violence goes, yes, I I suffered from a lot of things because of that experience. And I still think I suffer from a lot of things from that experience. I don't know if it will ever go away. I don't know if it will ever leave my mind, but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean I'm suffering in it. So I've
Right.
suffered from it. That doesn't mean I'm
Mhm.
actually suffering in it in the moment. And so
Mhm.
through sharing my story and just being there to help other people who may have suffered from something similar. And you know what? It doesn't have to be domestic violence. It could be
Correct.
it could be anything else. My
That's
job
right.
is to try to be an advocate for people, and elements of their life that they may feel like they don't have support. Yeah.
Hmm. And as you're talking about that, one of the things that comes to mind is strategies. We talk about mental illness, and of course, with mental illness, for me, I'm an advocate as well because I have family members who suffer from anxiety, who suffer from other forms of mental illness, personality disorders, and things like that. And so, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was about any strategies. What strategies do you use to help you through your anxiety?
I have quite a few strategies, but my favorite is anchoring. So I am a big proponent of quotes. I like little sayings. I like things that I can repeat. And in the moment of panic or the moment where I feel like something is going to go wrong, I'll focus on that. So a lot of times I wear shirts with quotes. My keychains have quotes. I have coffee mugs with quotes, and there's just everything. And I repeat them to myself over and over. And I focus on that and I anchor myself in that in the moment until I calm down. Another good thing, too, is, we often hear people talk about their circles or their networks. I have a circle of supporters just for anxiety. And so when I'm in that moment or I feel like I'm going to that moment, I call those people and they know what I'm calling for. So they then go into their modes of these are the people that I call when I'm panicking the most. And because we've been doing this for so long, that's kind of their role in my life. And so they know what to do to help me through that. But I'm also always like reading what's new, what's different. Music. Cannot go wrong with
Yes.
music. Find your favorite songs and play them for a playlist for 10 minutes and label it on your phone anxiety playlist, right? Because the thing is, anxiety, depression, panic, those things can hit you at any time, any
Mhm.
place, and you want something that's easy to do, easily accessible, that it's not over the top. You can be doing this in secret right now. Pop your headphones in, listen to some music, clenching your
That's
your
right.
your palm at home. Nobody knows that you're in this moment of counting down to 10 but
That's
you, but it
that's
works.
right. That's right. And Terry, to be transparent, I suffer with anxiety, and people don't know it because I'm always smiling, I'm always doing, but my thing is music. I love music. Put on music, and like you said, Cary, I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
Or sometimes I talk to myself and I say, okay, Tammy, hush, Tammy. Okay, Tammy, hush, Tammy. Don't say nothing else, Tammy. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so we're going to play something. What's your favorite quote? What is your favorite quote?
Oh man, I have so many of them. So behind me, I don't know if the viewers can see it, I have one that says, "Be your own kind of beautiful."
Hmm.
That is probably the first quote that stood out to me when I really start anchoring with quotes. And I say that because that goes back to the idea of I have anxiety. Something's wrong with me. I've been through domestic violence. Since I'm flawed in some way. There is
Hmm.
no flawed. Nobody is flawed. Your kind of
Yeah,
beautiful is beautiful, right?
that's
And so
right.
that is one of the most, to me, it's such a simple thing, but I'm
Hmm.
not in comparison with anybody else. My kind of beautiful and your kind of beautiful can be on the same stage and both be equally represented. And that is the power of, I think, just being an advocate and being male or female, but for me specifically, for
Hmm.
women. We need to remember that our kind of beautiful is just as relevant and important and beautiful.
That's right. That's right. And it's about encouraging each other. Just like when I talk with you, you're so encouraging, you're so inspiring, and I just had to have you come on the show because
Thank
every
you.
time I hear you speak, and your voice is so calming, and you may not know it, but I've told you this several times. It's very calming, and so therefore it's like, okay, see, and that helps. What's your favorite song, Carrie?
Oh man, I have so many. So I love Stevie Wonder, right?
Mm,
It depends on what I'm going through. So what I will say for suffering from anxiety, right? I have different playlists on my phone for anxiety, different levels of panic, right? Because I've been just
mm-hmm.
doing it for some time. But if you like dance music, and you don't have to be able to dance at all,
Right,
But if
right.
you like dance music and you put on 5 minutes of dance music and promise yourself that you're gonna dance like nobody is watching, I promise it's gonna put you in a good mood automatically. It's
That's right.
the
That's
doctor
right.
should just write that on a prescription pad, right? Dance for five
Dance,
minutes
yeah,
and you'll be okay.
yeah, that's right. And I love to dance as well. So yeah, I love that. And like you said, you have different music for different times. And
Hmm.
along with and I heard what you said, along with anxiety, panic attacks. And do you have those panic attacks now as well?
I do. I do. And
Okay.
panic attacks are scary within themselves, right? So anxiety is scary.
Mm-hmm.
Panic attacks are scary. I don't know when they're going to come. We never know how intense they're going to be. It's embarrassing having a panic attack in a public place.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel as if everyone is staring at you or judging you because they don't know or understand or can recognize what you're going through in the moment. And
That's
so
right.
this is why I say it's so important to uh, start to learn more about yourself, right? And start to find those little tiny things that work for you, right? Those count to 10 in the moment, that sing your favorite tune in your head over and over, that anchoring on something that's positive and repeat to yourself to kind of
Mm-hmm.
calm your brain down in the moment to bring you back to a quote unquote level of normal, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is for you.
Would it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is. And just talking with you, and I can see, just like I'm sitting here now and I'm doing this, okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. We're doing people don't realize behind the scenes it's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And
Yes, it
Cary,
is.
you know that. You know how that is behind the scenes. So listen,
Yes, it is.
when we come back, I want to talk with you about Camouflage Beauty, your podcast, and I want to talk with you about Cary LLC. So I just want you to sit there, and we're going to come back because Cary, thank you so much. I mean, you've enlightened us a whole lot, and I hope that someone that's out there listening will be able to glean from what you've been talking about and all that you've been sharing because you've been very, very, very transparent. And I want to thank you again. So just sit
Absolutely.
back, sit right there because we're going to come right back after this.
Okay.
Okay. The Cary Insurance Agency has served the community for over 30 years with hundreds of trained representatives to assist you in selecting health plans. Cary Insurance Agency is the largest marketing insurance group in the state of South Carolina for Medicare Advantage and represents all major health carriers. Annual enrollment for Medicare Advantage is October the 15th through December the 7th. Cary's motto is people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. Call Cary Insurance Agency today at 803-536-0889. The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com. Welcome back to the show. Well, listen, we've got Cary Thomas, active military master sergeant, domestic violence advocate. Well, she advocates for everything, anxiety, you name it, domestic violence, child abuse, and various other forms of trauma. Cary is the author. She's fabulous. That's all I can say. So welcome back to the show, Cary.
Thank you.
All right. So we talked about the first part about your domestic violence experience as being
Yeah.
a domestic violence survivor and an advocate. What I'd like to talk to you now is about your podcast, Camouflage Beauty. Tell me how you came up with that topic, that title,
Yeah.
and what that means for you, Cary.
So, Camouflage Beauty is a podcast of shared experiences for military and veteran women. And so, the camouflage not only represents the military, the veteran aspect, but I think it represents what women in general tend to do. We wear many hats: mother, wife, advocate, you name it, leader. And we seamlessly go between one room to the other room, third room, seamlessly. It's the beauty and the strength of women. A lot of times, though, I do believe that we also camouflage our pain. It's interwoven into a lot of things that we do. And so, again, going back to something you'll probably hear me say all the time is there is no normal and be your own type of beautiful. The idea of camouflaged beauty is that whatever your camouflage is, the idea and makeup for you, your framework of equal beauty in pain, trauma, anxiety, domestic violence, sexual assault, whatever that may be, there is a beauty at the very end of that all. So,
Hmm. It's almost like there's a light at the end of the tunnel,
hmm
as you're talking about that. And we all, as you said, we all wear all types of hats, Cary. I
yes.
mean, look at you. You're a master sergeant. You're a podcast
Yes.
host. You're also an author. You're also the founder of your own company. I mean, come on. That's just four to begin with. And so I know there are others. And so, having said that, what are some of the type of guests that you've had on this show? And tell me who was the most challenging guest that
Oh
you had on your show?
man, the most challenging. They're probably listening now to see if I'm going to name them. So I love all my guests. I'm actually thinking, and I guess I'll announce it here on your show. I am actually going to turn Camouflage Beauty itself into a book of stories of all
Wow.
my guests because I have so many people that reach out to me. Thank you, that reach out to us behind the scenes and say, the idea of camouflage beauty is exactly what we're doing here, being an advocate through sharing our story. A lot of times people are struggling through different things. And again, we're afraid to tell that story. We feel like no one understands. We feel like, this is only my burden to bear. But the strength is in sharing your story, and that story shared can help and sometimes even save a life. So I don't know if I have a favorite guest, but I still stay connected with all of them. That's it's like I've made these lifelong friends. They've dropped me quotes. They've
Mm-hmm.
added to my quote list. I love them all for different reasons.
Mm.
And but if I could talk about one guest that stood out to me specifically, it's someone that I actually knew while she was on active duty. And in the since we're in October, she is a cancer survivor. She's still
Mm-hmm.
struggling now. We know that cancer can come back, and I watched her with cancer, dual military family, her and her husband both, still serving the nation, going through that, never missing a beat. And
Mm.
to watch her, it's the most inspiring thing. Here I am, like, oh man, I really don't want to run that mile today. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to do three.
Wow.
You know, when you
Wow.
meet people like that, you're like,
Yes.
let me get up and walk this mile, or however I have to do it. So she has been one of my most inspiring guests for sure, and I'm also very lucky to call her my friend. So yeah.
Wow. And when we do shows like this, as you know, Carrie, there's always someone who is a little more difficult, and I say challenging. And then you have those that tell the greatest stories, and you're just like, oh man, this was a great show. And
Yeah.
and and so that comes with doing it. Why, when you started the podcast, I haven't ever done a podcast, and don't know. Maybe I'll come on your show just so I can get the experience of doing a podcast. But what was it like for you to start this with everything that you've been going through and you've been sharing, been so transparent when it comes to anxiety, panic attacks, and all of those types of things? How easy or how hard or how challenging was it for you to start this podcast?
So listen, if I'm nothing else, I have to be honest. It was not easy. Podcasting itself is easy. The overthinking and the anxiety portion was not easy. All
Mm-hmm.
the strategies that I just talked about, I had to live those, okay, to go through this. So starting the podcast was important to me to allow people to be able to share their stories, provide that safe space for people to come and share whatever story that is. However, it was a personal challenge to myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was not comfortable on video. I wasn't sure what my voice was going to sound like. I've never done anything like that before. But I said, why not me? This is important, so why not? So I started, and it's just been a great experience, and I've had so much support from people behind the scenes. And so if anyone's listening, if you've ever thought about it, just do it.
Yeah, yeah. Just I tell people all the time, just do it. And
Hmm.
Cary, you're the perfect example because I remember when we first talked and you were talking about your podcast and you were doing a little bit of this and you're sending me clips and all, and I was like, man, she's great. You're great. You did it with ease and nobody would ever know.
Yeah,
Nobody will ever know. So congratulations again
thank
on your
you.
podcast and all that you're doing. So now we're going to switch and I want to talk about Cary and then we're
Yeah,
going to talk about the book. So
yes,
let's talk about Cary
yeah,
LLC. What
yes.
does it mean and what does it mean to you to have this type of organization?
So, Carrie, challenge adversity and respect yourself. That was built out of my life experiences. I had to dig deep to realize what life meant to me and what I meant to me. And so it, it it didn't start out to be an LLC. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that these are things that I had to do. I had to challenge myself to grow through domestic violence. I had to challenge myself to start a podcast. I had to challenge myself to do whatever it is that I had to do as I'm going through a panic attack or having anxiety in the moment. And the respect yourself portion is at the forefront of it all. I had to respect myself to walk away from an unhealthy situation. And I have to
Mhm.
continue to respect myself, not to put myself back into that situation. And so it all kind of tied together and it just clicked for me. This is my name. This is who I am. And this is my mission. So, yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I tell you what, when I saw that challenge adversity, respect yourself, I was like, that speaks volumes.
Thank
It
you.
speaks volumes about you, and it speaks volumes about what you're out here doing in the community. And I just want to tell you, congratulations, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud to have you on my show today. I
Thank
tell you.
you.
Okay, so now you have something else up under your belt. You
Yes.
are an author. So
Yes.
let's talk about your book, Cage Fight.
Hmm.
Am I saying that right?
You are. You
All right.
are.
You're one of the co-authors. So let's
Yes.
talk about Cage Fight.
So Cage Fight is first of all the group of authors coming together is brought together by Christian leader and visionary author Sheila Farr, and so I have to first say thank you to her for bringing these remarkable people together. And what this is an anthology of numerous people, authors, and I want to say people. Take off the authors, people
Hmm.
sharing their stories of the cage fight. And the cage fight is the battle of your mind. The same things
Mm.
we're talking about here, whether it's
Hmm.
anxiety or panic attack, overthinking, low self confidence, whatever it is that you are going through, this book is for you because it goes again to show that none of us are without faults. None of us are perfect. We all have struggled in some area. And so I'm so excited to even be considered among the group of leaders. I mean, we have authors in this book that's been authors for many different times over, international best-selling authors. And so I am excited that I'm a part of this. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it kind of went along with everything else that we're talking about here. And so when I got this opportunity, I was very yes, 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 yes. Again, challenges
Hmm.
adversity to step into this ring with myself and to share my story. But I want to say, is it scary? Yes, it is.
Hmm.
But am I
Hmm.
going to do it? That's also a yes. So, yeah.
Yeah. And being an author in itself, it takes a lot because
Yeah.
you have to sit there and you have to almost recreate moments, especially when you're talking about fighting in your mind and all the things that you've been through, all the stresses, the anxiety, the traumas, and things that you have experienced. Now you have to put that on paper. And as you were doing that, Cary, what was that like for you?
So I was not expecting this question. So I will share this here. This again, suffering from anxiety. I was writing, and she told me, she spoke into my life, and she said, "This book is going to change your guys' lives." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, one chapter, no big deal. I'm
Hmm.
typing, and everything is going to be fine." And one day, as I was typing, trying to revise my story, I found my fingers moving without me realizing they were moving or what they were typing. And
Mm.
I just started crying. And I was
Mm.
crying and typing and crying and typing. And that went on for a while. And when I finally got done typing, I started to read the story to myself. And I couldn't
Hmm.
read the story. So I
Mm.
closed my computer and I put it under my bed for like 4 days. And
Mm.
I realized then in that moment that there's certain things that no matter how much you feel like, okay, you've overcome, sometimes you
Hmm.
go from step A to K, but you're brought back to step B. Let me try this again. And that's
Hmm.
okay. And so now
Yeah.
I finally realize that I am maybe not as far ahead as I thought. And so I need to go back and revise some things. And so that's the process I've been going through here over the last few
Wow.
weeks.
Wow. And now that's not uncommon. So as you're talking to me, because I've
Mhm.
written before, I wrote a book, and it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to go back and look at what you've done, Cary, and think about it and say, oh no, I got to put that away because I can't deal with it now. I just can't.
Yes.
I can't deal with it now. I've been writing a play for the last 5 years, and the play is hard to write because it does deal with some trauma in my life. And
Mhm.
as you said, I've picked it up and I said, no, not today, not
Yeah.
today, and put it
Yeah.
down. So I can't wait. I can't wait to read Cage Fight.
Yes.
And I go ahead and get it done. And I'm gonna be calling you and praying with you and um and checking up on you to say, hey Cary, is there something I can say? Just a little something that may help you get through that, because I'm excited for you, and I
Yeah.
know it's going to be great. And I would love to talk with Sheila as well one day.
Yeah.
Maybe the three of us can be on a conversation, or some of the other authors can come on and be on the conversation once the book is there, and really talk about what it's like fighting in your mind. We
Absolutely.
all have been there, Cary. We all been there. We all have been there and done that. And then people ask you, and this is what I'm going to ask you, and you've kind of been talking about it, but I kind of want you to reiterate it because we're in the second segment of this show. How did you overcome your trauma, or how are you dealing with your trauma?
So I don't know if I've overcome my trauma, and I don't think I now expect to overcome my trauma. It has reshaped me, but not because I'm reshaped means I am any less. So it's a process, and it's a daily process. And some days are good days, and some days are not so good days. And at one point I think I thought, oh yeah, I'm definitely over it now, but I don't think I necessarily am over it, or should I be over it? Those are experiences are a part of my life. And I'm okay with that. And so again, every day is a different struggle, a different trial, a different challenge, but you continue to challenge that and you work on those strategies that we talked about earlier that works for you, and you continue to develop new strategies, and most importantly, you learn more about yourself and you love yourself in the process. You keep
That's right.
doing that, I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah, Carrie. One of the great things about all of this is that we're learning about ourselves. And I have to mention our Sunday school.
Yes.
As we are, and we are Christians.
Hmm.
And as we lean toward God, one of the things that I have learned, and you've heard me say it, is during this pandemic, I learned so much about myself, and I thank God for that. Because I became closer to God, but I learned a lot about me, and I looked inside of me. What did you do during the pandemic, especially dealing with anxiety, dealing with panic attacks? What helped you get through the pandemic, or what are some of the strategies that you did to help you get through that?
So first, I would like to say that I think we attend the world's best Sunday school at
Yes.
Royal Missionary Baptist out of Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to be a part of this life transforming conversation
Oh,
and group every
yes.
Sunday. This is literally
Yes.
a family. But for me, I talk a lot about the pandemic, and I think I did a lot of spring cleaning, and
Hmm.
that spring cleaning was both physical and emotional. There's a lot of things that we put in our emotional suitcase that we don't deal with, and we lock it away in those little corner pockets, and we
Hmm.
don't take them out, and they just kind of stay there. We continue to stuff those corner pockets. And so the pandemic gave me some time to start unloading that suitcase bit by bit, and going through different things that I've put away for quite some time. And so, and that came with a physical part of it as well too. Sometimes I had to uh, purge and cut certain things out of my life as well during that
Hmm.
time. So yeah,
Yeah, and that purging can be painful,
yes, it
as we
is.
both know. And so yeah, we want to give a shout out to Deacon Herbert and Deaconess Cynthia Washington Williams and Deaconess Ford
Yes,
and Dr. Ford. Uh,
absolutely. And the whole
Yeah,
class,
the whole
'cause we
class.
are
I
a
mean,
family
yeah,
over there.
yeah, class, the whole class. Now listen, now we just saying that. Even Mama Rose,
Yeah.
we saying that. Yeah, the whole class. But having said that, we were talking about this, and you talked about the suitcase and how you have had to unpack, as well as put things away, throw things away, purge things, and that can be painful. What did you find that was painful for you during the pandemic in purging?
I think the hardest part for me during the pandemic, going through the purging process, is realizing that I was alone. So I am not married, and I do live by myself. And in the height of the pandemic, early 2020, we were shut down. Nobody was visiting anybody. So I was starting the purging process, and I thought it would be easier. And I have been unmarried for quite some time, but it hadn't hit me, I think.
Mm,
It hadn't hit me until the pandemic. The
hmm.
pandemic awakened a lot of different emotions for a lot of different people, and that was an emotion it awakened with me. And so a year, here we are, wait, a year and a half later, and so I now realize that A, I'm alone, but I also realize that B, I'm not lonely, and it's okay.
That,
And I
yes.
don't think I ever processed it, but I had to
Hmm.
truly process it during the pandemic and be okay with that. And and if I wasn't okay with that, then that would have to be something I had to process as well. So yeah.
That's right. I love what you said, being alone, but not being lonely.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's right. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
There is truly a difference because as you and I'm married as well. Been divorced for many years now. I mean, many years, and having been in the situation of shutdown mode and looking, I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. I'm kind of, yeah, I'm kind of enjoying this,
Yeah.
because now I'm having a chance, as we said, to learn more about Tammy. Just
Yeah.
like you said, you learned about Cary.
Yeah.
Cary, I tell you what, I have just enjoyed this so much. I do have another couple, one other question for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about therapy. Do you
Yeah.
feel therapy is the key for overcoming trauma or any mental anxieties, any mental illness? Do you think that therapy is that key?
I don't know if it is the key alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so
But
for me, I have definitely been through therapy. I think therapy should be used for prevention.
mm-hmm.
Go before something is wrong. Go because nothing seems wrong. Just go, right? And
Yep,
so I like
that's
my
right.
therapist anyway. I've had quite
Yeah.
a few of them, and I'm like, hey, listen, my friends are not available. You have to talk to me, right? And
Right,
so it
right.
is a key. I don't think it is the key because, again,
Mm-hmm.
with the support of like my Sunday school, my family, different strategies I work with on my own, what I find for joy, me being learning about mindfulness and being present in the moment, just different things all together create the keys to unlock that trauma and to make it through the other day. And so, Maya Angelou says it best, you just don't want to survive in life, you want to thrive. And so,
Exactly.
I feel like there are a lot of keys, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it reminds me of your favorite and my favorite artist as well, Stevie Wonder. Songs in the Key of Life.
Oh, right.
Oh, you know what I'm saying?
And that's the beauty of it, right? And that's one of the things we talked about earlier with music. When you start to really get a good artist and you listen to those,
Mm,
and you can relate it back to your life, that in itself is a key. You start to
yes.
see the beauty in that, you feel those words, that in itself is a key to help
Yeah.
you unlock a portion of trauma that you can step through that door.
That's right. Well, you know what, Carrie? I have just enjoyed having you on the show. I'm looking forward to Cage Fight. I'm looking forward to hearing about Cary LLC and all that you have going on. And if I can do anything here, I'm always available to you as myself, and anything that we can do for you here as a Tammy Show. I'd love to be a part of it. And I want you. The last thing I want you to do is talk about the takeaway that you want this audience to know about this interview in particular?
Yeah. So first, I could not leave without saying thank you for this amazing opportunity to be part of the Tammy show and the family of supporters out there watching. But if I should have any takeaway from this show, it would be one: domestic violence affects everybody or can affect anybody. Your economic standing, your age, your race, your religious preference, none of that matters. It can creep into your home at any given time. So let's look out for ourselves and for each other. And number two, there is no such thing as normal. Everybody's normal is different. And regardless of what you have been through, remember that other people around you have probably been through the same thing and worse. Do not be afraid to ask for help, and remember that you deserve more. So continue to challenge yourself in everything you do, and you challenge that adversity, as my name says, and respect yourself while doing it.
Wow. Listen, well said. Well said.
Thank
And I
you.
hope that everybody that's listening to the show now, I hope that they are really gleaning and getting something from all that you've said. Because Cary, you have just shared so much. You've given us so many nuggets and a lot to think about. And I want you to come back on the show.
Absolutely.
I want you to come back. Of course, I want you to come back to talk about Cage Fight, but I want you to come back because I think that you have a lot more to share. And I think that people will really get it and say, oh my goodness, if I can do that. And so the next thing I want, how can people get in touch with you if they're
So
interested? What do you want people to do?
so at this time, I am only taking social media information on the Camouflage Beauty platform. So I am on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram under Camouflage Beauty. And that's probably the best way to connect me as I continue to grow and use that network to support those military and veteran women.
Wow. And again, I want to thank you for your service. For taking care of us. I mean, because after all, it's women like you that are out there on the front lines in a lot of ways and taking care of us. And the last thing, Carrie, I always ask this, and I didn't tell you that I was going to ask this. I
Oh boy.
want you to give me 3 words that describe Carrie, the woman.
The woman. Oh, Carrie. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
not LLC now.
Oh, I got it. For me, it is strong, blessed, and humble.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm putting all of this in my journals as well. All the guests that I talked to. So strong, blessed, and humble.
And humble.
Carrie, that describes you to a T. I mean, I think I would have said the same thing.
Thank you.
Because for what you have gone through and all the things that you have done, and you've been so transparent and sharing, I tell you what, you are really a blessed and strong woman, and
Thank you.
I'm just thankful. I mean, I am so honored that you would take the time to be on my show, Master Sergeant Cary Thomas.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you, Cary. Thank you. And listen, you have a wonderful evening. You're out there in another time zone, and so we're doing this, and I appreciate you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. Cary, much, many blessings to you. And like I said, if there's anything that I can do to support you, please don't hesitate to call me.
I won't. Thanks, Miss Tammy.
Yeah, you call me Tammy. Listen, that Miss Tammy, y'all kill me with that. But I know we're from the South,
Hmm.
and we always said, "Ma'am, yes, ma'am,"
Yes.
and so I get it. But again, Cary, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show, and congratulations to you on everything that you're doing.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate your support, continuous support.
Yeah, all right, it was great. Thanks again, Cary. All right, I'll see you next time, Cary. You take care of yourself. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye. All right, listen, we've had a great time. I tell you what, Master Sergeant Cary Thomas, if you didn't learn anything else from her, I hope you heard her when she said you need that support because it's very important for you to ask for help. And it's very important as you're going through, if you're going through domestic violence, to know that you're not the only one going through it. So make sure that you get that help. And it affects people in many different ways. If you didn't hear anything else from Cary, know that there is support out there for you. Cary's an advocate. I want you to contact her through her Camouflage Beauty. She is on Instagram. She's on Facebook. Let me tell you, powerful, powerful woman. And so can't wait to read the book, Cage Fight. Can't wait, Cary, to read that book. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you for being on the show. It's been a great time. This is the end of our segment for the power of advocacy. Next month, we are talking about the power of giving. The power of being thankful. Because in December, it's about the power of giving. But this next month, it's about the power of being thankful. And so we'll have some great guests coming on, and we're going to be talking with our guest. Again, I want to thank my assistant producer, Tiana, my associate producer, Alicia, and everybody that takes part in being a part of this show. Lonnie, for all of your graphics and everything. I mean, we can't do this without help, without support. And again, I want you to remember we still aren't out of COVID, but the one thing that you can do is you can get a vaccination. Your choice. I have mine. Get yours. The other thing is wash your hands, social distance. I mean, still wear your mask. All of the things that we need to do to keep ourselves safe. And remember, enjoy life because it's later than you think. So until the next time, folks, take care of yourself. Bye bye.